I hope you're all out there having the best day possible. And as always, I appreciate you taking a bit of time out of that day to actually watch one of my videos. And this one's going to be a really short time because I just want to make one point for anyone who's either looking to get into silver stacking or maybe even begun the journey and happens to be carrying on them any amount of personal debt, but especially a larger amount where they're being charged a pretty high amount of interest on that debt and it's actually accumulating even higher, or maybe even they're making payments but they're considering taking some of that money and beginning to put it into silver because they think, well, silver will grow in value over time, so certainly kind of mixing between the two would be a good idea, right? Here's where there's a huge fundamental flaw in that kind of thinking, or just even I would say investing in silver before you've paid off all your personal debt. That is the thing that I guess you could take away from the title if you want to take away any direct point, which is you should consider paying off all personal debt before you actually begin silver stacking, because silver is not an investment that is meant to actually grow the amount of money you have in the short run. Rather, barring any kind of crazy economic scenario that us silver stackers low-key dream about, because our silver might finally have the chance to trade at a fair price. But in all seriousness, barring any kind of crazy collapse of fiat currency in and of itself, silver is not going to have any kind of long-term, sustainable, or even predictable explosion in price. The last two times that it has exploded, yes, there's definitely been market signs within the economy that tangible investments were going to be more appealing to people, but the actual rushes on the coin shops, those had to have been unprecedented, and they definitely were not something that you could have banked on by saying, oh, I'm going to buy silver now because in 2 years it's going to spike up to triple its value. That's not the kind of call that you can make without just completely gambling at that point. So the actual investment value of silver, therefore, is to actually protect your wealth against inflation, because the price of it does move so slowly. It is very, I guess you could say, the opposite of volatile, very stable. But beyond that, if you actually time your purchases right during times where silver is generally being less valued and the premiums are lower, and you're able to purchase at a relatively low spot price in comparison to where it's been for the last year or two, if you purchase during those times specifically, then over the course of 3, 5, 10 years, rather than your money sitting in a bank and actually losing value because every year inflation causes the purchasing power per dollar to actually go down. Obviously, no one's coming to take your money when it comes to inflation, but rather what it means is that every dollar you own over the course of a year actually loses a little bit of the purchasing power it had for goods and services, meaning that at the end of the year, you can purchase a bit less in the way of goods and services per dollar that you own than you could in the beginning of the year, and that's across all markets. That's why it's actual inflation to the currency and not inflation to specific markets. But to actually counter all of that, that is where silver's value lies. By purchasing silver, by putting as much of your fiat that you safely can into silver and then storing that over the long run through smart purchases, especially, not purchasing at a time where silver is going to have a huge collapse and take years to reach that value again, because there are definitely wrong times to buy silver, excuse me. As long as you invest intelligently, you can actually preserve your wealth against inflation, because obviously no one's going to give you extra silver for owning it, but over time, the monetary value, or I should say the fiat currency value of silver, does go up. Over the course of 5 years, if you look at every 5 year period, silver closes significantly higher than it did 5 years before. And it can oftentimes even outpace inflation, so maybe you can grow your investment a little bit over time. But why then would you not want to get into that if you have debt? Because the actual idea of silver is wealth preservation to protect you against inflation, which I consider to be like the hidden tax, right? So if you're paying interest on money that you owe, why would you not just want to preserve your wealth by paying off that debt instead of allowing it to grow anymore? That's the problem with debt, is that it has interest on it. And if you're in some kind of crazy scenario, like, I do know that there are exceptions to the situation. I knew of someone who their mom was actually paying like the minimum on their student loans, that it was like $10 a month that they had to pay, but the actual loan amount was so high that they would never end up paying it off in their lifetime by continuing to pay the minimum. So rather than trying to make like significant payments that would have ended up being, somewhere around 50 or something grand, I think, they were just paying $10 a month in order to technically skate by and only spend $120 a year to do so. And they were carrying personal debt, but in their case, it made sense to actually not go and pay off the debt. But that type of a situation, I imagine, is really rare. And the only reason I even bring it up is because if you came into this video already with it in your mind that, oh, I can buy silver despite having debt because this is my situation, well then congratulations, this video is not for you. This video is meant to inform people who might be unaware otherwise that with general personal debt, it actually might not be wise to invest in silver because the very idea of silver is preserving your wealth, which debt will not allow you to do. With that all being said though, that is it for this video, and if you think the information in it might actually help one of your friends out, please consider sharing it with them. And if you enjoyed the information for yourself, don't know why I can't talk at all at this point, I'm really just going off, but if you did actually find yourself enjoying the video, I would really appreciate it if you drop a like on it and drop a comment as well so that it can actually reach some more people in the YouTube algorithm, and subscribing to the channel so that you find more videos from me and also support those. It would really mean the world, but that is truly it for this one now. Peace.